Hey guys, my name is Louis Jeremita from Aspiring Gent and Primo Tailoring, and we're here with another fun video. We've done one of these in the past. I think we've only ever done one, talking about the inside construction of a JCPenney suit. We wanted to do more, but never really got the traction we were looking for. But today, we have a very special guest with us. This is a suit made from a person who's been growing rather rapidly on social media. Some of you may know who I'm talking about already, but if not, we are talking about Sam's Tailors, also the guy who's been selling a lot of these things on social media. His name is Roshan. So we got one of his pieces in today, and we're going to go over, talk about what we think about it, how it was made, the construction, design details, the whole nine. Now, a couple of disclaimers before we get into this. This suit was not made for me. This was made for a client, and we're having to do some fixing to the fit of it. So we're not going to talk about how it fits, because it wasn't made for me. So let's start off, first off, with price point. Now, this can be tricky, especially for someone doing custom-made clothing, because again, it does come down to what the clients are asking for. But what I do know from watching some of his lives and some of my own investigation is his suits start out around like the $600, $800 price point, depending on the fabric you choose. But we're gonna go with that $600, $800 price point, and we're gonna work up from there. So with this guy here, first off, let's take a look on the outside. We've got the flat pockets that can also be turned into the besom pockets. He's got a pretty nice and thick welt pocket here, very thin lapels, contrasting stitches, gauntlet cuffs, and working buttonholes. Now, all in general, just talking about a black suit, because this is what this is, very clean, very classic. A couple things that I would note that I do know are some of his house styles that I'm not the biggest fan of is one, the lapel size. He goes very narrow on his lapels. Not a big fan of that. I think it looks feminine, looks a little bit more off the rack, budget friendly kind of version. That's just not my own personal style. You guys let me know, what do you think? Wide lapels like mine, skinnier lapels like Sam's Tailors. Another thing is he goes really small with the pocket flaps. Now again, this kind of goes hand in hand with the lapels, so if you like the lapels this way, you're gonna like the pockets, but for me, I prefer a beefier front pocket. Again, just for the same things that I mentioned. And what I would do is I would have had the pocket flap a little bit larger to kind of coincide with this barchetta pocket, which he loves to do, which I am a huge fan of. Love doing that on my suits as well. But it looks a little bit too wide for me in contrast with the lapel and the front pocket. Gauntlet cuffs, I think those are really cool. Hopefully it's a detail that I'll be able to incorporate into some of my designs as I get people willing to venture out a little bit more with their clothing. So one of the design details I cannot stand. Guess what it is? Can you guess what it is based off of what we're looking at here? Well, I'm going to tell you right now, is the contrasting stitch colors. I don't really get the point of it. Yeah, if you want it to be a slight different shade, you want a little bit of a pop, cool, but I don't think it's necessary if you're making good quality suits. I think that those kind of distract from the other elements. I think, yeah, it's trendy, and if that's what you want to do and that's what's selling, go for it. Business is important, not just the style of thing, but if it were me, I would kind of recommend all of my guys from not doing this. But again, at the end of the day, the customer gets what they want, and if that's what they want and they're willing to go crazy against me or anybody else for that matter, they're most likely going to get it if you have good customer service. One last thing that I do want to note that I know is a very popular trait of Roshan, he puts this on most of his suits, and that's when he spins his client around. I'm sure if you guys have seen his stuff, you know what I'm talking about. The vent. Not a big fan of this super small vent. I know it's probably more European, more of his culture in Asia, but I'm not a huge fan of how short it is, especially on a guy. I think it just looks like why put it on there if it's going to be so small? But overall, I think it's a solid, clean black. I like the fabric. I don't know what kind of quality of mill this is. Personally, I don't know. It just doesn't feel like the highest quality of fabric, but I could be wrong because my fabric feeling abilities are not at their prime yet. But I think it's a good suit. If you were paying $600 for this, it's a three-piece, $600 to $800 for this. I think you're getting your money's worth in terms of the design. Again, if you're working with him and you enjoy the more classic menswear approach, I would try and push for getting a larger lapel, larger pockets, longer vent. Just a couple of my takes. You guys let me know what you think down below. But I must say, another element of the design on this jacket would be the dinner button. If you've not seen one of Roshan's dinner button, I believe it's genius. The way it works is when you unbutton your top button, the only button that should really be buttoned on a jacket, you have a secondary button coming through the back, which has some extra thread to it. That gets put into that buttonhole, which gives you an extra inch of room to play with, so you can wear it buttoned sitting down. But it also gives a really cool double button look if you're going for more of like a sleek formal look. I will say, love that about Roshan's design. Got a point there from me. Now moving on to the construction of these garments. And I will say, start off with a positive note. Coming from a tailor, one of the things that Roshan does that I am a huge fan of is leaves plenty of inlay inside the jacket. That is not something that you see from many people, but because they are putting the jackets together themselves, they are able to kind of make that discretionary decision on their own, and they do, and I love you, Roshan, for doing it. For example, this guy who brought this jacket into me, it's a little bit tight across the back shoulder and into the body, and he left almost 2 inches in this back seam. Now, I'm not going to let it all out, but it will give me room to play to kind of give my client that extra ease of motion that he needs. I know we're not talking about the pants today, but the pants are the same way. The waistband has a lot of extra room. Actually, the crotch and the leg have some room to let out. So for all of those things, I'm very happy you can have this suit grow with you. In terms of the construction of the chest piece, everything seems very soft. There's not much in the shoulder pads. There's not much in the front of the garment. From when I had it open, I believe there is very light canvassing on the inside. I would probably say it'd be about like a half canvas, if that. It may even just be unconstructed. There's just a little bit of horsehair that comes down into here, nothing of any substance. The lapel roll, pretty good, no complaints there, so I know that they put some things on the inside. It's all machine done, so very little handwork is put into this except for on the sleeves. Also on the inner side of this, I do feel a little bit of fusing in the front, so that's probably the bulk of the shape. But again, if you are getting a suit at that price point, making it by their own team of tailors, I don't think you're really screwing yourself over. It is kind of what you pay for. It's kind of on par with that, like Indochino, that kind of process. The only thing is you get to talk with a designer. If you can get a meeting with Roshan, I don't know how hard that is. So let's give this whole thing a rating. Let's bring it home. So again, I'm not talking about how accurate their fitting is. I mean, I'm going to give him some grace. Tailoring to people who are remote is not an easy job. So even though this guy had some fit issues, that does not mean that is common for them. I honestly do not know. So we are just talking about the design details and certain construction elements of it. So as a whole, I would probably be very comfortable giving Roshan a 6.5 out of 10 stars, or tailoring thimbles, whatever we want to use as our ranking system, in terms of his suit construction and the make and the design of everything. Now, it's not really up to par with my design taste, and that varies. That's all completely up to the user and the wearer. But the way I look at it is I would like to see some different balancing between the different elements to kind of make it look cohesive, especially for this gentleman, the way that he has a bit of broader shoulders. I would have had these peak lapels come out a little bit longer. I think if you're doing a peak lapel, you really shouldn't be doing it narrow. But regardless, I think he did a good job in terms of constructing it and pulling off the details. The cocktail cuff is also a really cool element in there. I also like to see the working buttonholes, machine made, which is very common for the industry, but just a nice little detail. Again, if you are working with him, all the styling things, as long as you aren't persuaded by him to go with the more narrow features, can be decided by you. So I would just say, if you're going to get something, I would go for a little bit broader details. I think it looks better. But in terms of the construction, again, I can't speak to if he has a higher quality of make, but this full machine make, in terms of the seams, the canvassing, everything was just kind of zipped together on a machine, but it was done by one of his tailors. So that does bump him above like the Indochinos, that kind of stuff. But there's not too much in terms of the drape or the fit of it. It's very skin tight. So I think that kind of lends to the less canvassing, more fusing. So that's why he sits a little bit above average with the 6.5. But let me know what you guys think. Would you have given him that score? Have you had his stuff? Let me know down below. Also, if there's any other brands or manufacturers that you would like me to talk about, show their product, give my unbiased review on them, please also leave those in the comments below. But I just want to thank you guys so much for being here and watching this content. It means so much that I'm able to share all this stuff with you guys, and I look forward to doing more videos. So have a great day, and I will see you in the next video.